hey there. Welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. If you are a subscriber returning, yay, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And if you're a subscriber, you know I always reply to all the comments below. So keep those comments coming. And if you're brand new to this channel, yay, you found me. Finally, I've been waiting for you. My goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so that you have the scoop and you can make the best decision as to whether or not you want to spend time or money or both sometimes watching a particular film. So today, the movie I'm reviewing is called Surprised by Oxford. This heady romance is now playing in select theaters. The movie is rated PG-13 and is an hour and 47 minutes long. My overall movie review mom grade is an A-. I thought it was really well done and I really enjoyed it. It's also one that came out a little while ago and I'm still trying to catch up from when I was in bed recovering from surgery. So it might even be on streaming now or video on demand. Actually, it probably is by now. But anyway, I'm going to give you an overview in a nutshell. I'll point out things that I liked and didn't like, as well as offer tips for parents, themes worth talking about, funny lines, interesting lines, and recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that you might also really like if you like this one. All right, you ready to dive in? Me too. So in a nutshell, the idea of this story is really lovely, but what makes it better is that it's based on a true story. Carolyn Weber shared her memories in the biographical novel of the same name. And then it was turned into a movie. How great is that? So congratulations to Carolyn. The film was directed by Ryan Whitaker, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Carolyn Weber. So yay. So there were a lot of things I really liked about the movie. First of all, the cast includes the handsome couple, Rose Reed and Rory O'Connor, as well as Phyllis Logan, Lourdes Faberes, Michael Culkin, Mark Williams, Ed Stoppard, and many more. And I thought everyone did an outstanding job. I love that Rose Reed's character knew she wanted to get a doctoral degree when she was just a young girl. I did too. I remember asking somebody, what's the biggest, highest degree that you can get? And they said a doctoral degree. And I was like, well, that's what I want. Anyway, it took me a while, but I finally got it. And my doctoral degree is actually in management and leadership with a concentration in higher education. So I've actually been a university professor for 12 years now. All right, back to the movie. The dialogue is inspirational, entertaining, and extremely insightful. We get to learn about and visit Oxford University in England. And I got to go there a few years ago for the very first time. You kind of feel smarter just being there. The movie tells us that it's 400 years older than the United States. I love the UK and have been there several times. So add it to your bucket list if you haven't been. We also get to learn a little bit about the Romantic period of English literature. Hopefully, the movie will inspire you to crack a book and disappear to the beautiful language. The movie features a book called Surprised by Joy by C.S. Lewis. Some characters talk about that. Have you ever read it? I haven't either, so it's on my list. And another good book by C.S. Lewis that I have read is called Mere Christianity, filled with insightful life lessons. So now, while the movie addresses faith, it definitely doesn't feel preachy. It doesn't feel like a typical Christian film because it's much more elevated, intellectual, and classy. While I have not read the book, I have heard that the conversion of the author played a much bigger role in the story, and the romance was just a small part. But in the movie, the reverse is true. So while I was a student, I took some classes where there were only a handful of other students in it, as portrayed in this film, where there were maybe 6, 7 students sitting around a table, which is exactly what my experience was. Needless to say, it's really hard to fall asleep in the class in that kind of a situation where everybody can see you, especially the professor. It was touching to see the professors in this movie who took genuine care of their students. So I currently teach at a university and a local college where I try to do the same thing. Like the film shows, one good teacher can make all the difference in a young student's life. Now, while this movie isn't a Christmas movie, the bulk of the movie is a crescendo up to Christmas break. And then some years pass and some other things happen. And so I guess you could watch it at Christmas time. The reason I bring that up is at Christmas time during the holiday break, students come back home from school and they're not always the same person, are they? They've had some life experiences and been on their own and learned a thing or two. And so if that's the case, if you're the student coming back, have patience with your family as they try to embrace the new changed you. And if you are a parent or grandparent, be patient and allow that new young student who's returning home to change and kind of stretch their wings and be the new person that they've grown to be while they've been away from you. All right, now, just a few things that I didn't like or just thought maybe could have been done differently. For example, we don't get to see the very moment where the leading couple met in a pub. We just suddenly see her drunk and talking nonstop to this guy. And I just felt like that was a missed opportunity. I wanted, the eyes to catch and glance at each other for the first time. And but it's true, the case that as it is in college, oftentimes you do just sort of meet somebody and it's not that big magical moment. However, I'm happy to say that that was the case with my husband. I remember the moment I first laid eyes on him and what I thought and felt. And he thinks the same thing, that that was like a big moment. Anyway, just saying, it was very romantic. Now, there is a lot of quick, mean-spirited banter in the film. The dialogue is interesting, clever, often witty, but sometimes that mean-spiritedness just became really annoying. I get it, you're smart, but you don't have to treat people that way. For example, have you ever met a guy who would take that much verbal abuse and dismissal from a girl, and yet he keeps going after her? His persistence seemed so unrealistic. I think it's hard for a guy to approach a girl, and if she shuts him down the first time, he may not try again, maybe one time or three times, but I don't know. My philosophy is even, kind of three strikes and you're out. I'm not going to force somebody to really like me, let alone fall in love with me. And so, this guy just kept trying and trying and trying. And I was just like, wow, dude, move on. There are a lot of other fish in the sea. And so many of the characters are just pompous and arrogantly impressed with their own genius and self-importance. Now, I get it. It's Oxford. That is super cool. But again, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Now, there's a lot more to the story than just this intellect. However, this is not a light rom-com. And so that dialogue is meaningful and often difficult to follow. And there might be words that you don't know, that kind of thing. That's why I introduced it as a heady romance. Now, let me give you some tips for parents. I think kids are going to be extremely bored and not understand a lot of the dialogue and won't like this. And the movie is definitely not intended for them anyway. There's a lot of alcohol and some drunkenness that's portrayed. There's talk of chastity and intimate premarital relationships, and that's not appropriate for little kids either. So let me share some themes that are definitely worth talking about if you watch this with friends or family or somebody. They are truth and that search for truth. It's not just about knowledge, but what is actual truth? And is absolute truth real? I say yes. Another theme is education. Other themes are goals and distractions from them that can often cause us to lose our focus. Religion and faith, happiness versus joy, and what is the difference? I would love to hear how you define the difference. Other themes are, how do you define an abundant life? We're all searching for that, right? So what is it? romance, chastity, and inspirational literature are other themes. So now, whenever I watch movies, I take notes, I write down funny lines and interesting lines, simply so I can share them with you, so you get a taste of the dialogue and the script writing quality. I didn't write down any funny lines. Now, there is humor, but this is not a laugh out loud comedy by any stretch of the imagination. It is really kind of a drama, but some of the banter and the situations are a little humorous. But I wrote down interesting lines, and you can see them all in my written review at moviereviewmom.com. So one of the interesting lines is spoken by Tyler Merritt, who plays one of the professors, Dr. DeVoe, and he says, your purpose in life is to discern the real from the bull, the BS. And I thought, okay, that's one way to teach a student. So another interesting line is spoken by Rose Reed's character, and she's having a conversation. So she says to this girl, first time in the UK, what gave it away? And Hannah, who's played by Emma Naomi, says, the stars in your eyes. And I thought that that was really cute, because I definitely feel that when I travel. I love to travel because even as an adult, sometimes it's hard to get really excited about things, especially if you're just living in the same place. You know, you work, you live your life, but to go to a foreign country and see new things and hear different languages and taste different foods, it's just like being a kid again. I love it. So in answer to that question about happiness versus joy and versus pleasure, even how do you define those? So Rose Reed character says, happiness is too shallow and pleasure is too fleeting. And so that joy is something, this is now me talking, that joy is something that resonates in your heart, in your mind, in your soul. Anyway, I love that. Now, another really interesting line is when Emma Naomi says, talking to somebody, she says, I'm worried you'll get everything you ever want and be perfectly miserable, right? And then the provost is played by Phyllis Logan, and she is so wise, and I've never seen a provost really go above and beyond. You know, they're dealing with a lot of students, but because this program is small, she absolutely knows each of the students, and that alone is impressive. But she says, quote, I believe there's grace all around us all the time if we could only have the humility to admit that we need it, that we can't find our way out on our own, end quote. And that's one of the many lessons that this young student learns. All right, I was going to share a few more lines that are super interesting, but you can go see them on my website. All right, so while I was watching this movie, I instantly thought of a few movies that I wanted to point out. The first one is called The Most Reluctant Convert, the untold story of C.S. Lewis. And he was a college student having debates with his faculty, with his cohort, his fellow students, and throughout many experiences and lots of prayer and thinking, he actually became a very strong Christian. And he shares his testimony of Jesus Christ in one of his books, which is A Christmas Story about the birth of Jesus Christ. Also a really sweet book. Anyway, check that one out if you are a Christian and you're getting ready to celebrate Christmas. Another one, which is also the story of C.S. Lewis and some other authors, is called Shadowlands. And it's a drama, and it stars Anthony Hopkins, if I remember correctly. I just remember it being very well done and really good. And then another movie that I thought of is called Chariots of Fire. Now, it's not necessarily Oxford students, although it does take place in the UK, and it's about some Olympians, but there's some schooling involved in training and growth, and I don't know why, I just thought of it while I was watching this movie. So definitely check that one out. It's a classic, so well done, gorgeous musical score. All right. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me. When you get a few more minutes, watch the movie that follows this one and keep watching, because that spreads magical YouTube fairy dust. Whenever you stay on my channel, you can search for whatever movie you were curious what I had to say or what things I had to say about it. And again, thank you so much for your support. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.